What if I told you that Sleeping Beauty was never about waiting for a prince, but about running away from life itself? What if I told you that 100-year sleep wasn't a curse, but an unconscious choice? Pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and prepare to awaken from a sleep you may not even know you are experiencing. You've heard this story: a princess, a christening party, kind fairy godmothers, an evil fairy who curses, a fatal spindle, 100 years of sleep, a savior prince, a kiss that awakens. But that's just the surface. The real story lies beneath the skin, in the deepest layers of the unconscious, in the place where you keep the fears you dare not name. What they never told you is that this is not a fable about passive waiting. It's a ritual about avoidance, a map of how we escape adulthood, a manual on how we unconsciously choose numbness when reality becomes unbearable. The moral you were taught, "Be patient and your prince will come," is a poisoned half-truth. The real truth, the truth that hurts, is much more complex. Sometimes we choose to sleep ourselves. Sometimes we prefer unconsciousness to responsibility. Sometimes we pretend to be cursed when in fact we are running away. And today we're going to explore every layer of this escape. The story begins with parents desperate for an heir. Oh, if only we had a child. But look beyond the words. See the pressure. See the obsessive need. See how this child wasn't born free. Born to fulfill expectations. Born to be the solution to other people's problems. The girl had not even arrived in the world, and she already carried the weight of completing her parents' happiness. Do you recognize this? Do you recognize the feeling of being born not to be yourself, but to be the answer to the needs of others? This is the first wound, the primordial wound. Being born not as an individual, but as a project. The king throws a grand feast. He invites 13 wise fairies, but he only has 12 golden plates. Here is the first telling symbol, the exclusion of the 13th archetype. In Jungian psychology, the number 13 represents transformation, creative chaos, and that which disrupts the established order. It is the archetype of the shadow, the part of us that doesn't fit into the well-behaved table. The king unconsciously rejects the possibility that his daughter has a wild, unpredictable, authentic nature. He only wants the pretty fairies. The socially approved virtues: beauty, intelligence, sweetness, obedience, talents that please the audience. But the 13th fairy, the rejected shadow, does not disappear. She bursts into the party like an inconvenient truth. When she turns 15, she will prick her finger on a spindle and die. But wait, look deeper. The bad fairy isn't actually evil. She's the voice of nature that has been rejected. She's the dark aspect that every psyche needs to integrate to become whole. The spindle is not just a sewing tool. It is a phallic symbol representing sexuality, creativity, and the power to create and transform. It represents the transition to adulthood, with all its pleasures and responsibilities. The curse is actually a prophecy. When she becomes a woman, 15, when she finds her sexuality and creative power, spindle, she will die to the girl she was. It is the symbolic death necessary for the rebirth of the adult woman. But the family, terrified of this natural transformation, does what many families do: try to stop it. Remember Little Red Riding Hood's grandma, who represents control, obligation, rules, laws. The king orders all the spindles in the kingdom to be burned. Do you see the madness? In trying to protect his daughter from the curse, he destroys all the kingdom's creative tools. He eliminates the possibility of any woman exercising her creativity, her sexuality, her autonomy. Overprotection becomes collective castration, and the princess grows up in a bubble, isolated, protected, unaware. Having never seen a spindle, she doesn't know what it is. She hasn't developed discernment. She hasn't learned to deal with the dangers, because they've all been artificially removed. Do you recognize this pattern? Do you recognize many families, especially today, who try to raise perfect children by removing all challenges? Do you recognize parents who prefer eternally childish children to mature and independent adults? On her 15th birthday, her parents leave, and for the first time, the princess is alone. And what does a person who has never had freedom do when he finally becomes free? Explore. Climb the highest tower. Go after what was forbidden. There he finds an old woman spinning on a spindle. But look closely at this old woman. She's no ordinary person. She's the evil fairy herself in disguise. She's the shadow that never left. "What is that spinning so merrily?" asks the princess. She does not know the instrument of creation because she has been prevented from knowing it. So do what any curious girl would do. Touch. And what happens? She pricks her finger. A drop of scarlet blood. It's no coincidence that it's blood. Blood is life. It's menstruation. It's sexuality awakening. It's the transition from girl to woman. The spindle did not bring death. It brought the first symbolic menstruation. It brought sexual awakening. It brought the power to generate life. It brought the awareness that she is no longer a child. And this is so terrifying to a super protected girl, so overwhelming, that her psyche does the only thing it knows how to do: turn it off. Sleep enters a state of deep denial. She was not cursed. She chose to sleep. Unconsciously, she preferred numbness to sexual awakening. She preferred to remain a girl rather than become a woman. He preferred sleep to facing adult life, and not just her. The whole kingdom sleeps together. Because when someone in a family refuses to grow up, the entire family dynamic freezes. Everyone stops in time. Everyone avoids dealing with reality. 100 years pass. But for her, not even a second passes. In sleep, she does not age. She does not grow. She does not transform. He remains eternally 15, at the exact age between child and adult, in the limbo of non-growth. It's a perfect metaphor for people who are stuck in time, who stop evolving emotionally at a specific age, usually when something has scared them too much to continue growing. Do you know people like that? Adults with large bodies but adolescent psyches? People who avoid adult responsibilities, mature relationships, important decisions? The castle is covered in thorns. Thorns that grow to keep everyone away, so that no one can wake her up, so she can continue her comfortable escape. For 100 years, many princes have tried to cross the thorns. Everyone dies. Why? Because you cannot be saved by another when you yourself have chosen to sleep. The spines are not external, they are internal. These are the psychological defenses she created to keep everyone away, to avoid intimacy, to prevent someone from waking her up to reality. Every dead prince represents a lost opportunity, a relationship that could have awakened her, but was sabotaged by her own defenses. How many princes have you killed in your life? How many people who could have helped you grow have you kept out of your psychological thorns? Exactly 100 years later, a different prince appears, and then something magical happens. The thorns open by themselves. They saw flowers. They make a path. Why now? Because she's finally ready. Because 100 years later, symbolically, she finally reached the emotional maturity necessary to face adult life. The prince is not stronger than the others. He arrived at the right time, when her psyche finally signaled, "Now I'm ready to wake up." The prince does not wake her up forcefully. Don't shout in her ear. Don't shake her. Give me a kiss. The kiss is soft. It's gentle. It's an invitation, not an imposition. And do you know what that means? That no one can force you to wake up from your emotional dormancy. Awakening only happens when you choose to accept life's invitation, when you are internally ready to grow. The kiss represents self-acceptance, self-love, the internal decision to stop running away from who you are. She wakes up, and with it, the entire kingdom awakens. The horses run again. The dogs start barking again. The fire burns again. The food is prepared again. Life flows again. Why? Because when a person stops running away from their own life, the entire family dynamic changes. When someone takes responsibility for their own growth, it frees everyone else to grow too. When you stop asking to be saved, your entire reality rearranges itself. The prince is not an external person. The prince is his own maturity. It's your courage. It is your willingness to face adult life. Marriage is symbolic. It is you, uniting with your own integrity. It's about stopping running away from who you are. It's embracing all parts of yourself, including that 13th fairy you've tried so hard to reject. This is the story they kept from you, not because it is dangerous for you, but because it questions the external salvation narrative that keeps you dependent, infantilized, waiting. This story reveals truths that many don't want you to know. You could be asleep and not even know it. Your psychological thorns are created by you. No one can wake you up if you don't choose to wake up. The prince you're waiting for may be your own courage to grow up. Running away from adulthood doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. And you? When you look in the mirror, do you see anyone awake? Or do you see someone who is still sleeping? At what emotional age did you stop growing? What time zone have you been avoiding touching? What adult responsibility has scared you so much that you prefer numbness? Are you waiting to be saved? Or are you ready to save yourself? What psychological thorns have you created to keep people away? How many princes have you killed with your defenses? And the most important question, when will you choose to awaken? If this story touched some dormant part of you, then you already know. You know it's time to stop pretending you're cursed when you're actually choosing to sleep. It's time to stop waiting for someone to come and save you from the life you're avoiding, living. It's time to understand that your thorns are created by you and can be dissolved by you. The time has come to embrace your 13th fairy, to embrace the wild, unpredictable, creative aspects of yourself that have been rejected at the party of social approval. The time has come to touch the spindle, to bleed a little, to grow, to wake up. Share this story, not because I ask you to, but because others are sleeping in towers of their own making, waiting for salvation that can only come from within. Subscribe to this channel, activate the bell, because we'll continue to debunk all the myths that taught you to wait instead of act. And most importantly, always remember, you don't have to wait 100 years. You don't have to wait for a prince. You are not cursed. You are choosing to sleep. And at any moment, at any time, you can choose to awaken. The kiss you're waiting for, it comes from yourself. It's your own decision to stop running away. It is your courage to touch the spindle of adult life. It's your willingness to bleed a little in the process of growing up. If you've made it this far, you're already waking up. Go back to the beginning of this story and see with the eyes of someone who just woke up. You've heard this story. A princess, a curse, 100 years of sleep, a saving kiss. But now you know, this is just the shell. The real story is about you, about your journey out of emotional numbness, about your choice to grow up, about your awakening. And she's just getting started. Welcome to waking life. Welcome to adulthood. Welcome home. The real story never ends. She just wakes up. Like you.